reduce conjunctions and enhance the efficiency of voting. Though the current threshold of voters for the polling station is a little below 700, it is better managed if it could further be brought down to 400 per polling station. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the Commission should engage in broader stakeholder consultations with community leaders, civil society, political parties before finalizing demarcation changes. The Commission should also strengthen the voters' education and awareness to ensure all citizens are aware of where and how to vote ahead of time. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow poor planning and outdated boundaries to jeopardize the peace and credibility of our elections. Electoral reforms must not only focus on technology and transparency, but also on the practical reality facing the voters at the grassroots. Ensuring further representation and smooth electoral processes is not a privilege. It is a democratic necessity, and we must scale up the modality to accommodate all citizens, no matter where they live in the country. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Honourable members, that is a statement ably made. It's time for comment. And how many comments from each side are we taking?
Speaker, we'll just take one.
Minority Leader. Very well. Yes, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I want to comment on the statement heavily laid by the Honourable member from Tatale Sanguli. It's a concern in this country and on the part of our country, especially in northern region, where settlements are widely spread. You see that some communities, heavy communities, would rather be moving to some smaller communities on voting, during voting. And this is actually discouraging them, especially from having the high turnout when there are elections. If you look at Welesi, for instance, we have a community called Mapedo. It's a larger community with thousands of people, but they rather convey their people to other settlements to vote. And this is actually discouraging them. I believe that if we can really structure the electoral areas, especially where we vote, it will encourage people to participate in voting. So, Mr. Speaker, I will not talk much, but I think that I support this very statement that it should be considered and worked on. Thank you very much for this.
Yes, minority leadership. Yes, majority leadership.
Speaker, I will yield to the Honourable member for Recruitment.
Honourable member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Leader, for yielding to me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to be associated with this very important statement because my constituency, Brekum West, is facing similar challenge. We have a situation where 3 distinctive towns, for instance, Abomaso, Nanasuano, Benkasa, all these 3 are boxed into one electoral area, making the work of the assembly member very, very difficult. We also have Tobabi and Abisase, 2 distinct towns boxed together to form one electoral area, making work very, very difficult. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important that electoral areas and polling station areas are demarcated in such a manner that you have manageable numbers for proper decentralization, for proper engagement with electoral areas, for proper engagement with polling station areas. So it's important we look at the current demarcation where one electoral area will cover about 20 square meters. And I think these things should be looked at and worked on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, we've come to the end of comment on that statement. Yes, Majority Chief Whip, any indication?
Speaker, the indication is that we'll take item number 9 so our leaders can conclude. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minority Leader, that's the indication. Well, at conclave, let me announce that leaders are speaking for 30 minutes, half an hour. So, Minority Leader, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, this afternoon, I conclude on behalf of the minority our views on the true state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President came to the chamber on the 27th of February 2026 and said certain things that demand answers. But Mr. Speaker, as I proceed, let me remind this House of the veritable words of Thomas Jefferson in his first inaugural address as the third President of the United States on 4th March 1801. Mr. Speaker, this is what he had to say. Quote, "All too will bear in mind this sacred principle, that though the will of the majority is in all cases to prevail, that will must be reasonable, that the minority possess their equal rights, which equal law must protect." End quote. Mr. Speaker, on the strength of these veritable words, I, on behalf of the caucus I lead, anchor the submissions of our caucus and to ask the very difficult questions for and on behalf of the Ghanaian people. So let me ask these simple questions. How can government say it has no money to continue building hospitals, yet suddenly find money to purchase a private jet for the president? Mr. Speaker, what are the priorities of this government? No money for hospitals, but money for jets. No money for the sick, but money for comfort in the sky. No money for the cocoa farmer, yet money to buy jets. No money to subsidize electricity, yet money to buy jets. No money to fight galamsey, yet money to sponsor social events. Mr. Speaker, when the government cannot finish hospitals, but can buy aircrafts, it has made its priorities very clear. Again, this nation does not need propaganda. What it needs is a truthful diagnosis and a workable plan. But before I say a word about the president's speech, let me first refer us to Article 67. It provides, quote, "The president shall, at the beginning of each session of Parliament and before a dissolution of Parliament, deliver to Parliament a message on the state of the nation." Mr. Speaker, the operating word shall, not may, not should, shall. So, Mr. Speaker, on the 27th of February, what the president did amounted to nothing. He did not fulfill the constitutional command. What he did, Mr. Speaker, was that he delivered a performance on the state of his imagination. He did not come to account. He came to impress. He brought us a screenplay. And I'm not here to applaud his statecraft. I'm here to expose the flaws in his address and to let Ghanaians know the true state of our nation. 2 hours, Mr. Speaker, soaring rhetoric, elegant metaphors, and carefully managed statistics. Mr. Speaker, yet what the president forgot, that there were idle hands on the streets of our cities. Over 1,539 workers cleared by government-owned committee, but they have failed to employ them. This was not mentioned, not even in passing. The sacking of the Chief Justice, Justice Arabe Sabatsokunu, was not mentioned. Electricity tariff hikes was not mentioned. The doomsday that has come back to our homes and our factories was not mentioned. The doomsday levy, 1 Ghana cedi per litre, was not mentioned. Mr. Speaker, let the record be clear that what happened on the 27th of February was not accountability. It was theater. And today, this side of the House rises to do what the president refused to do, to speak the truth about the real state of our nation. Mr. Speaker, 2 hours of oratory. The president found no word useful than any other. He kept saying inherited. He wielded it like a weapon. Every crisis inherited. Every deficit inherited. Every debt inherited. But every recovery he claimed he delivered. Every upgrade he called it achievement. And every improvement, Mr. Speaker, he attributed it perhaps to the courtesy of the miracle workers at Jubilee House. Mr. Speaker, we submit that this is not governance, but propaganda. Inherited is not a license. It has become a broken record, and the Ghanaian people are wary of dancing to that worn-out tune. Judge this government not by what they claim they met, but by what they have done. Not by the excuses they manufacture, but by the lives they have failed to transform. Mr. Speaker, they claim that they came to meet debts. But what they forgot is that, Mr. Speaker, the previous government went extraordinary lengths to ensure that the country was safe, the economy could run, and public sector workers were paid. Mr. Speaker, economic recovery that the president referred to and celebrated was as a result of prudent economic management that came before him. Mr. Speaker, those decisions were necessary. Decisions that the very people now taking the bow spend years attacking, mocking, and weaponizing on campaign platforms across this country. When Ghana's economy buckled under the weight of post-COVID-19 pressures and accumulated structural weakness, it was the MPP that made the hardest call in recent Ghanaian history. We went to IMF, we negotiated extended credit facility, we structured the debt, we imposed fiscal discipline at enormous political cost. The MPP told Ghanaians the truth about their country's finances, even when that truth was brutal, even when we knew our opponent would use it against us. And indeed, they used it against us. The very people who now stand in this chamber, taking vows for a recovering economy, are the same people who stood on platforms and told Ghanaians that the IMF program was a betrayal. They mocked our fiscal consolidation. They described our revenue reforms. They derided our revenue reforms. They weaponized our sacrifice to win election. And now they have the audacity, the sheer audacity, to stand here and claim the harvest of seeds they never planted, through rain they never endured, on soil they never tended. Mr. Speaker, that is not governance. That is opportunism dressed in a borrowed robe. And the same applies to gold. The gold for oil reserve program that this administration is marketing to Ghanaians as a signature innovation was never invented by this government. It was conceived, designed, and launched by the NPP administration, spearheaded by the former Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Mr. Speaker, it was our policy, our framework, our initiative. What this administration has done is to take that program, rebrand it, put their name on the door, and present it to the world as though they thought of it themselves. We hereby submit that, Mr. Speaker, it is time the government gave to Bawumia what belongs to Bawumia. There is nothing wrong with continuing a good policy. What is wrong, what is dishonest, and what this minority will not allow to pass without challenge is claiming the intellectual and policy credit for a program the NDC spent years opposing and which MPP built from the ground up. Mr. Speaker, Ghana cannot learn right lessons from its recent economic history if those in power are permitted to rewrite it. This minority will not allow that rewriting to stand. Mr. Speaker, the NDC has betrayed the Ghanaian farmer. Mr. Speaker, when they were in opposition, they promised that they will pay a farm gate price per bag of cocoa, 6,000 Ghana cedis. Today, the reality is different. When farmers woke up one day, the finance minister at the Ministry of Finance, through a press conference, announced a haircut, reduced the price per bag to 2,587. This very disappointing. The farmer who believed in the promises of NDC was disappointed. And what did the president say? We should tighten our belt. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, the president is busily ordering for a new aircraft. Mr. Speaker, it is not only the cocoa farmer who is suffering. The rice farmer, who has invested heavily in rice production, is also suffering. Mr. Speaker, rice farmers cannot get market for their produce. Mr. Speaker, the rice farmers are suffering because many people
Minority Leader, your microphone is off. Your microphone is off. You have the floor. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, people are now depending on cheap imported rice. And our farmers who invested heavily in rice production are not getting market for their produce. Mr. Speaker, those who have cultivated yam are also suffering. Mr. Speaker, they are not getting access to the market. Nobody is supporting them. And this government is only depending on gold. They are only interested in gold board, promoting galamsey. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot abandon our farmers and think that by promoting illegal mining and getting cheap gold, we will be developing our economy. Mr. Speaker, this government is under that illusion that there are gains in what it is doing. Mr. Speaker, this government is bound to fail. Mr. Speaker, if illegal mining can be stopped, Mr. Speaker, then government must show seriousness. It's a public health emergency, and it is a generational crime against children not yet born. Mr. Speaker, the President gave us some numbers that there are some 1,634 blue water guards deployed, 114 case files open, and 1,033 pieces of equipment tracked. The minority will not waste time dismissing these figures. The water is still brown, they should know. The land is still scarred. The rivers are still dying. We note the reported seizure of approximately 1,000 Shamfang excavators at Tema Port. Mr. Speaker, this we welcome. However, it raises questions that screams for answers. Who imported them? The public deserves to know. And let me be clear, those machines must be publicly destroyed without delay, not stored in a government warehouse where they can be quietly retrieved, not reallocated to some favored contractor. They must be destroyed, crushed into scrap. Mr. Speaker, now let me turn to the gold board. Mr. Speaker, the gold board, according to the IMF, incurred losses not exceeding 7 billion cedis as at end 2025. Mr. Speaker, this report from the IMF is something that, Mr. Speaker, government should be concerned about. How can you be selling gold and incurring losses? Mr. Speaker, the minority raised this alarm upon receipt of the IMF report, and we expect our motion to be taken on the floor for us to interrogate. Mr. Speaker, we are not interested in 15-month reserves of import cover. We are not interested in the so-called macroeconomic numbers, the so-called inflation. Inflation is best felt by the ordinary Ghanaian on the market. We are not interested in their paper figures for the IMF. Mr. Speaker, what the President did not tell the people of Ghana is the challenges going on in the recruitment exercise. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a nation that must embrace the future. Artificial intelligence, digital system, and technological innovation are not things we should fear. In fact, if we want to compete globally, we must move boldly into that future. But Mr. Speaker, technology must work for the people. It must become a barrier between, it must not become a barrier between the people and opportunity. Today, many young Ghanaians are deeply frustrated with this AI recruitment system that has been introduced. Across the country, young men and women, graduates, unemployed youth, and hopeful applicants have spent their last money purchasing recruitment vouchers, only to face systems that reject their pins, flag them incorrectly, or prevent them from completing their applications. For many of these young people, this was not just a technical inconvenience, it was the difference between hope and disappointment. Mr. Speaker, we must also remember that Ghana is still a country with real infrastructure challenges. Reliable internet is not available everywhere. Electricity is not constant everywhere. Many applicants do not have laptops or smartphones. Some must travel long distances just to find a place with internet access to attempt the applications. So when a system is designed entirely around digital access without considering those realities, it risks excluding the very people it was meant to help. Technology should level the playing field, not tilt it. Mr. Speaker, when legitimate systems fail, illegitimate actors quickly step in. Already, we are hearing worrying reports of middlemen and scammers exploiting desperate young people, promising shortcuts into recruitment processes in exchange for money. This is how systems that are meant to create transparency can unintentionally create new forms of exploitation. But beyond all of this, Mr. Speaker, there is something even more important at stake: the trust of our youth. The young people of this country want to believe that opportunity in Ghana is fair. They want to believe that if they follow the rules, if they apply through the proper channels, the system will work for them. When that faith begins to erode, frustrations grow. Mr. Speaker, this is not about rejecting technology. AI is here to stay, and Ghana must move forward with digital transformation. But progress must be thoughtful. It must be inclusive. It must always place the Ghanaian people at the center. Therefore, I respectfully, on behalf of my colleagues in the minority, submit that there must be an immediate review of the current AI recruitment system to ensure that it is transparent, accessible, and fair to every Ghanaian youth, whether they live in Accra or in the remotest communities of this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, a system designed to create opportunity must never become a barrier to opportunity. Indeed, our young people deserve better, and the NDC government must hear this loud and clear. The young people of Ghana deserve better. Mr. Speaker, let me proceed to also draw the government's attention to one more thing. There is no NDC Ghana, there is no MPP Ghana. I call on the government forthwith to reinstate all those Ghanaian youths who were dismissed as a result of the directive of government to state agencies. Mr. Speaker, those young Ghanaians have families, have the aspirations. They should not suffer just because there's a change of government. Mr. Speaker, it's been over a year. The government must reinstate them to go back to work. It is unfair, and one day, Mr. Speaker, it will come back and haunt them. Mr. Speaker, let me refer to another suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian: electricity tariffs. Mr. Speaker, to go down memory lane, in 2015, we saw electricity hikes going as high as 31%. Mr. Speaker, in the second quarter of 2015. By fourth quarter 2015, electricity tariffs had increased to 59%. Mr. Speaker, in total, under the previous NDC administration, in 2015 alone, electricity tariffs increased by 90%, whilst water increased by 88%. Mr. Speaker, today NDC is back. And what do we see? On 3rd May 2025, electricity tariff increased by 14.75%. On 1st July 2025, 2.45%. On 1st October 2025, 1.14%. Mr. Speaker, on 1st January 2026, 9.8%. Mr. Speaker, that's put together a total of 28.14 in electricity tariffs alone. Mr. Speaker, that is a record of the NDC, and that is a record that the president did not talk about. Mr. Speaker, this government has also failed in ensuring the implementation of the 24-hour economy. They promised the Ghanaian youth that there will be one job, 3 shifts. The president came here, he didn't talk about the one job, 3 shifts. What we see is frustration of our people. And they also promised the women that there was going to be a women bank. Mr. Speaker, it's been over a year. When are we going to have the women bank? That is also another matter the president refused to talk about. Mr. Speaker, on the foreign front, our compatriots who are on peacekeeping are in danger, are in harm's way. Mr. Speaker, on the true state of the nation, we expected, Mr. President, to talk about the suffering of our soldiers in peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, we are aware of their predicaments, the bombing in the area that they are. But Mr. Speaker, the president has not spoken about it. None of his ministers has even had the courage to come to Parliament to address the nation on this. Mr. Speaker, we, the caucus, the minority caucus, hereby say that, Mr. Speaker, we are with our compatriots who are in Lebanon. We share in their pain. Those who are injured, we wish them a speedy recovery. And we urge government to take steps in ensuring that the necessary support systems are in place, the proper diplomatic channels are engaged to protect our compatriots who are on peacekeeping in Lebanon. And then, Mr. Speaker, in Burkina Faso, what happened to our market women? 8 of them killed. No concrete steps were taken to help the families. And Mr. Speaker, again, we say to their families, we mourn with them. Mr. Speaker, we stand with them, and we expect government to take steps to support their families and not to abandon them. Mr. Speaker, it's been several months after the unfortunate helicopter crash. We know that the finance minister has a heavy responsibility. What we understood from the president then was that the finance minister was to act for some few weeks to enable him appoint a new defense minister. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, because defense security is not the priority of this government, to date, there is no substantive defense minister appointed to take affairs of state at the defense ministry. This, Mr. President, did not talk about, and we see it as a major policy failure of the government. Mr. Speaker, we urge the president to prioritize the security of Ghanaian lives and ensure that our defense ministry is properly manned by a minister with full responsibility. Mr. Speaker, what the president did not also talk about is the human rights abuses we have seen the past year. Many appointees on our side were either arrested without warrant or, Mr. Speaker, even when they themselves had reported themselves to the investigative agency, Mr. Speaker, they granted them very onerous bail conditions with an attempt to keep them, and instead of the Attorney General using the court to prosecute cases, he decided to use press conference to persecute them. Mr. Speaker, we find this very unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, the president has told us that under the independence, the 69th independence of our republic, the theme, building prosperity, restoring hope. Mr. Speaker, we beg to ask the question, what hope are we restoring when the president is failing to address issues in the private sector? What hope have we when the president is not creating jobs? What we want the government to know is that, Mr. Speaker, no matter how long it takes, they have just 3 years left. We, the minority, would endure. We will stand with the people of Ghana, relying on Martin Luther King's words. We cannot walk alone, And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. The minority will never turn back. We will work with the people of Ghana. We will stand firm for their interests. And we know that, Mr. Speaker, come 2028, come 2028, come 2028, the tables will turn. And Mr. Speaker, for those, Mr. Speaker, for those who are abusing their power and authority, let me remind them that the ravening clouds shall not long be victorious. They shall not long possess the sky. We urge them to be measured in the exercise of their duties, even as they are in public office. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we experienced a sad situation in this chamber where the Deputy Finance Minister came here with his own piece of propaganda, which propaganda was already contained in the President's State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, we welcome that report. We welcome that report, and we pray that they would be able to be firm when that day comes for their own accountability. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, these were the words of the chief whip of the majority side. Mr. Speaker, he admitted that the suffering of the Ghanaian youth has hit his side, and these were his own words. Quote, Mr. Speaker, the pressure on MPs as we sit here, our phones are beaming with message about disqualification. And so let me assure the House and the entire nation that the minister responsible for Interior, especially in respect of the services that fall under his supervision, is taking steps to address the issues. Mr. Speaker, it is our hope that the majority will walk the talk and ensure that the masses who are suffering get a fair opportunity to get recruited. And Mr. Speaker, before I resume my seat, let me reiterate one more time that the rice farmers need the attention of government. The cocoa farmers need the attention of government. The young farmers, the poor young farmer needs the attention of farmers. Maize farmers need the attention of farmers. Mr. Speaker, the government should not only think about its comforts. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that said, I want to submit, finally, that, Mr. Speaker, the President must come again and address the nation on all the issues happening and ensure that the youth of the country who were promised jobs are given jobs, that steps are taken to build a transparent system that will help grow our economy. If they come honestly and work with us, Mr. Speaker, we would work with them for the sake of our country, Mr. Speaker. That said, I want to thank you very much.
Your time is up. Honorable members of the minority, let us not overdo things. It's now the turn Honorable members, let us not overdo things. It's now the turn of the majority leader, who will also be speaking for 30 minutes. Majority leader, you have the floor. Honorable members of the minority, we should not be compelled to do what we shouldn't do. Yes, you have the floor.
Right Honorable Speaker, before I go on to the text of my closing debate on the state of the nation as presented by the President, let me just correct some inaccuracies in the presentation of my colleague. He said that the President did not say anything about the plight of our soldiers in the Middle East because of the conflict. What he has forgotten is that the President delivered the sonar on the 27th of February. On the 27th of February. And America and Israel attacked Iran on the 28th. A day after, how could the President be addressing this House on a matter that had not occurred? Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Nitiwood, you are a former leader. With all due respect, Honorable Nitiwood, you are a former leader.
Mr. Speaker, again, he questions the commitment of this government by saying that we should not keep excavators and chamfangs in warehouses. We should burn them. Mr. Speaker, in which civilized world would a government seize excavators, dozers, trucks, and burn them? In which civilized society will a nation do that? Those equipment have alternative uses. Someone might bring it in with the intention of using it for an illegal purpose. But when the state seizes it, that equipment is available to be used for a perfectly legal purpose. And so I cannot fathom how the leader of the minority will suggest that every excavator seized at the port, not at the mining site, seized at the port, should be burned at the port. But when we run out of ideas, we hear all those things. Mr. Speaker, we gather here not merely to fulfill a formal constitutional debate on the SONA, but to bear witness to a national resurrection. For 3 long years, our republic walked through a valley of economic shadows, a wilderness where the air was thick with the dust of devaluation and the ground was cracked by the heat of excruciating debt. We were a nation that forgot how to dream because we were too busy trying to survive. We were a people whose resilience was tested until the very marrow of our national character was laid bare. But as the old proverb teaches us, and as the President so poignantly reminded this House, however long the night, the dawn will break. Mr. Speaker, look out of this August House. That dawn is no longer a distant promise we recite in our prayers. It is a rising sun that is warming the hearts of our people from Hamile to Hafasini. The state of our nation is no longer a story of survival. It is a chronicle of revival. It is the story of a people who refuse to let the fire of the Black Star go out. Let us be clear-eyed about the ruins we inherited. On the 19th of December 2022, Ghana fell. We declared a debt default, a dark, cold day when our national wealth was no longer our bond. We inherited a shackle of 80 billion in energy debt and an economy gasping for air with inflation at 54.1%. Our reserves were depleted. Our credit was crushed. Our youth looked at the horizon and saw only a wall of uncertainty and despair. But Mr. Speaker, a house is not judged by how it stands in the sun, but by how it held firm during the storm. When the winds of that default threatened to rip the roof off our republic, there were those who whispered that Ghana was finished. They suggested we were a failed experiment, but they were wrong. Under the resetting Ghana agenda, we did not just patch the leaks, we reinforced the foundation. We chose the difficult part of structural integrity over the easy part of political convenience. We performed a fiscal bypass on a dying economy. And today, Mr. Speaker, the patient is not, I say, they are just statistics. To them, I say, numbers are the language of the state. But food is the language of the home. General inflation has plummeted to 3.8%. Food inflation has been tamed to 4.9%. When petrol prices dropped from 15 cedis to 20 cedis, 15.20 to 9.99 cedis, it is a pay rise for every taxi driver, every truck driver, every trader gets a check when the prices of petrol reduce. We abolished the nuisance taxes, e-levy, the betting tax, the emission tax, returning 6 billion Ghana cedis to the pockets of ordinary Ghanaians. Nowhere is this revival more spectacular than in the financial sector. Once the graveyard of our hopes, there were days when the vote was empty and the future was mortgaged. Days when the collapse of our banking institutions felt like a permanent eclipse. But today, Mr. Speaker, the 2025 Monetary Policy Report signals a recovery that borders on the miraculous. Our total assets have surged to a monumental 447 billion Ghana cedis. This is not just a figure, it is a fortress. It is a testament to a system purged of its weaknesses and fortified by integrity. We have moved from the precipice of systemic collapse to a summit of liquidity. We have ensured that the savings of the Ghanaians are no longer a gamble, but a guarantee. Let me repeat that. We have ensured that the savings of Ghanaians are no longer a gamble, but a guarantee. Mr. Speaker, the heart of this republic beats in our cocoa farms. So let me speak about cocoa farms. For decades, the Ghanaian farmer was spectator to the wealth generated by his own beans. They bore the heat of the sun, whilst others enjoy the sweetness of the chocolate. We have shattered that glass ceiling. By institutionalizing the cocoa sector reforms, we have ensured that the historic surge in global cocoa prices is delivered directly to the farm gate. We have moved the producer price to unprecedented heights, ensuring that when the world pays more for a bar of chocolate, the farmer in Setui, Enchi, Tepa finally sees a reflection of that value in his pocket. That is the essence of the reforms in the sector, so that the world market price will move directly to the farmer. Today, when the world market price is bad, the farmer will feel it. But by the system we have put in place, when tomorrow the world market price is good, the farmer will stand in good stead. This is not mere comments. It is the restoration of the dignity of the Ghanaian soul. We are moving from being exporters of raw toil to masters of our own industrial destiny, investing in local processing so that made in Ghana becomes a global standard of excellence, not a colonial footnote. Yet, Mr. Speaker, let us speak the truth that the corridors of power often fear. The call for accountability, and I hear my colleague, the minority leader, speak about human rights abuses and harassment of ex-dual appointees of the NPP. Mr. Speaker, the call for accountability is not a pursuit of vengeance. It is a requirement of constitutional hygiene. When a regime exits the corridors of power, leaving behind a trail of depleted reserves, astronomical debt, and unvowed for expenditures, the silence of the successor is not statesmanship, it is complicity. To ignore the financial misdeeds of the past is to tell the future that the public purse is a trophy for the swift rather than a trust for the people. We cannot build a reset Ghana on a foundation of impunity. We must ensure that those who treated the national treasury as a private fiefdom are brought to face the stern, impartial light of the law. Accountability acts as the ultimate deterrent against the recurrence of fiscal recklessness. If the architects of the 2022 debt default and the purveyors of inflated sole source contracts walk away into a comfortable retirement, we effectively institutionalize corruption as a low-risk, high-reward venture. By pursuing forensic audits and legal recovery, the state signals that the value for money principle is not a rhetorical flourish, but a binding legal mandate. It is a moral necessity to show the taxpayer, who is currently enduring the hard choices of recovery, that their sacrifice is not being used to subsidize the past theft of a privileged few. Ultimately, this is about the restoration of the soul of our democracy. Financial accountability ensures that the institutional resolve to speak of it backed by the weight of justice. We do not seek to settle scores. We seek to settle the accounts of the Republic. Only by cleaning the stables of the previous regime can we guarantee that the new dawn we are building is not just a change of faces, but a fundamental change in the character of Ghanaian governance. The Accra Reset is our continental manifesto. With the passage of the 24-hour Economy Authority Bill, we have unlocked the gates of productivity that were locked by the sunset for 60 years. Let me repeat them, Mr. Speaker. With the passage of the 24-hour Economy Authority Bill, we have unlocked the gates of productivity that were locked by the sunset for 60 years. Critics ask, why a 24-hour economy? Critics ask, why a 24-hour economy? I tell them, because poverty does not take a break at 8 p.m. Hunger does not sleep. We are breaking the 8 to 5 shackles. Backed by an initial 110 million Ghana cedis, we are turning the dead of night into the bread of life. From the Accra-Kumasi Expressway to the Volivo Bridge, Ghana is once again a construction site. We are creating jobs. We are expanding businesses. We are not just building roads. We are building arteries for commerce. With 27,000 new jobs in our garment factories, we are stitching the fabric of a new middle class. We are rebalancing the scales of justice through education. The No Fee Stress initiative has already shielded 152,698 first-year students from financial exclusion, a number set to rise to 220,000 students. In health, we launched Mahama Cares with a 2.9 billion Ghana cedis fund for chronic diseases. Should a father have to choose between university fees and his wife's dialysis, should that be the case, today we are tearing up that ledger of despair. We have seized our sovereignty from the hands of donors and placed it back into the hands of our doctors. We are ending the no bed syndrome, because a hospital bed is a right of citizenship, not a price for the privilege. Our Feed Ghana program is the pillar of our sovereignty. We are procuring 660 tractors and 400 combined harvesters. We are determined to slash out $400 million poultry import bill by raising 10 million birds on our own soil. We will not be a nation that begs for what we can grow. Let me repeat that. We will not be a nation that begs for what we can grow. And let it be known, the era of the sole source contract is dead. The value for money office bill is our sword against waste. Mr. Speaker, as I take my seat, let us remember that the Republic is larger than any political party. It belongs to the nurse in Ho, the teacher in Gambaga, the fisherman in Mori, the youth in the Dawa industrial zones. Nations endure not because they are spared trials, but because their people refuse to surrender. We were tested by the furnace of death, and like the fine gold of our soil, we have emerged purer and stronger. Let history record that in 2026, we did not just build prosperity, we restored the soul of a nation. We chose action over apathy. We chose the light of accountability over the darkness of complicity. We chose the farmer over the financier. The dawn is no longer breaking, Mr. Speaker. The morning is here. It is a morning of work, a morning of justice, a morning of hope, and that morning, bright, bold, and beautiful, belongs to the people of Ghana. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, order. Honourable Nuruddin, order. Honourable members, can we have order? Honourable members, on Tuesday, 3rd March 2026, the Honourable Member for Bolgatanga Central and Chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Honourable Isaac Adongo, moved this motion, and it was seconded by the Honourable Member for Asin South and the Ranking Member for Committee on Defence, Honourable Reverend John Ntim Fojo. As was determined by the leadership, the two leaders have successfully concluded the debate today. At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion is accordingly adopted. I shall, in accordance with Standing Order 72(4), formally convey the gratitude of the House to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Yes, Majority Leader, any indication?
Speaker. Speaker, we today, as leaders have concluded the debate on the SONA, we think that it's an opportune time to adjourn for today, so that tomorrow we can come back at 2 p.m. to consider that business. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Yes, the application is to have the House adjourn. Honourable members, there is an application to have the House adjourn. Any seconder? Any seconder of the motion for adjournment?
Yes, thank you. Speaker, whilst I proceed to second the motion, Speaker, there is something that is persistently becoming consistent in this chamber. And Speaker, there is the very important need for you to take a careful look at that. Speaker, the leader of the minority stood up. And Speaker, visibly so, you saw him. But Speaker, you ignored him. And I also stood up. And Speaker, it was for a reason, because we wanted to have a vote on this matter. And Speaker, you watched us, ignored us, failed to even call us or pay any attention to us, and you proceeded. And Speaker, it is a parliament of two members, membership on this side and membership on this side. So if we cannot have our say, Speaker, then what is happening to our parliament? Speaker, we needed to have our say. And we stood up with the purpose that you should have heard our leader. Speaker, respectfully, if you had heard our leader, it would have spoiled nothing. It would have meant that we are prosecuting democracy. It would have meant that the other part, which is this part, the minority, would have been heard. And Speaker, we cannot be always thrown under the bus with a view that you will not pay attention to us when we stand up to express our views. Speaker, Speaker, I think that this is very important. You always need to pay attention to us when we stand up. Respectfully.
Well, Honourable Majority Leader, do you have something to say?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. The minority leader knows. Mr. Speaker, on a lighter note, the speaker is right not to notice the minority leader because he has brought food items into the chamber against the rules of this house. He has brought yam, konkonte, and then rice and maize. And Mr. Speaker, even more serious, contrary to the law, he has gone to bring unripe cocoa pots into the chamber. Knowing very well that there is an ally that makes it an offense to pluck cocoa that is unripe. The Minister for Lands and Natural, former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is here. He knows that you cannot pluck unripe cocoa and then bring it to this chamber. All the cocoa that you have displayed today are unripe cocoa that you plucked in clear violation of the law. See the green part of it. Clear indication that it is unripe cocoa. Mr. Speaker, I think that we had gotten to the end of the day. I don't think Speaker intended to disregard the minority, but we had just all spoken and we're just to adjourn. And so I thought that there was really no issue here. But if the minority took offense, I'm sure going forward, we will address those issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I take note of the submission of my very good friend Jerry with great concern. Honorable members, I have given the 30 minutes opportunity to the minority leader to speak. I have also given 30 minutes opportunity to the majority leader to speak. Honorable members, at the conclusion of the debate, when the speaker is speaking, you don't interrupt by the rules. You do not interrupt by the rules. The rules are very clear that when speaker is speaking at the conclusion of the debate, you do not interrupt. If you want to raise an issue regarding the question, you wait. When the question is put and response is given, and the speaker said the ayes have it, that is the point you get up to challenge the vote. But you do not get up when the speaker is on the floor speaking. The standing order is very clear. It is the same thing that you are doing. It doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing. So why do we always want to create the impression that anytime I am presiding, I'm being unfair to you? The rules are to guide us. Honorable Jerry Ahmed, kindly resume your seats. There is a motion on the floor for adjournment. Any seconder of the motion?
I seconded the motion. I only proceeded, Speaker, respectfully, to make a point.
Once the motion has been seconded.
Speaker, whilst I was making that point, I want you to understand that the minority leader stood up at the time he was supposed to have. And it was timeless. Speaker, the minority leader stood up at the time he was supposed to have stood up. The moment you asked, that was when the minority leader stood up. And Speaker, it's not out of disrespect. Speaker, it's not out of disrespect to you. And Speaker, he acted just within the rules, not without reference to the rules, and not with any disrespect to you, Speaker. And that is key. Speaker, I respect you. I just want you to understand that the minority leader stood up at the time he was supposed to have done so. He did that timelessly. And just as you prescribed, that was exactly what he did. And I needed to place that on record, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, I may be blind tomorrow, but today I am not blind. The House is accordingly adjourned till Thursday, the 12th day of March 2026 at
Speaker, at midday,
12 noon. Adjourn accordingly.
Conditioners.
But if I would